After suffering a tragic car accident and losing his life, Nobody begins to wonder what he did to deserve this. Suddenly, he finds himself trapped inside his vehicle, which is stuck at the bottom of a river, and desperately tries to get out. However, just as he is about to run out of air, Nemo wakes up in the bathroom and ends up losing his life once again with a gunshot. In his next life, he is trapped in a spaceship with other astronauts and sees everything around him collapse. A few years later, Nemo opens his eyes and sees a man with a tattooed face sitting in front of him. According to Dr. Feldheim, they see each other almost every week, but Nemo has no memory of ever seeing him before. When asked about his age, Nemo claims to be 34, but his appearance reveals that he is not telling the truth. He says he was born in 1975 and believes he is in the year 2009, but when he looks at his own hands, Nemo realizes that his skin is wrinkled, and his reflection in the mirror belongs to an elderly man. At that moment, Feldheim hands him a newspaper announcing the 118th birthday of the last mortal human in that world. Upon reading this news, Nemo despairs, and immediately wakes up next to Elise, his wife. When he looks in the mirror, he sees a 34-year-old man and wakes his children to take them to school. Before opening the door, Nemo sees an envelope in the mailbox, and when he opens it, he is confronted with images of his real family. At that moment, he realizes that he is living someone else's life and is transported to his real home. When he sees Jean, Nemo begins to wonder if he is going crazy, as he was sure that his wife's name was Elise. Suddenly, a group of men in suits arrive at the house, and a lawyer approaches to ask how Nemo is feeling, as everyone is worried about him. At that moment, Nemo focuses on the TV show he is watching and is transported to another reality, where an explosion ends his life and that of Elise, who is in the passenger seat. While all this is happening in Nemo's head, in the real world, nurses at Union Hospital monitor his brain activity and share all updates with Julian Marshall, the host of the reality show starring The Last Mortal. In this world, almost everyone has pigs as pets, because it was thanks to the stem cells of these animals that they acquired immortality. During a hypnosis session, Nemo remembers the period before his birth, when he lived in heaven with unicorns and several other children who had not yet been born. According to him, before being born, souls know all the events of their next life, but their memory is erased by angels before they are sent to Earth. However, when it was Nemo's turn, the angels passed him by without erasing his memory, and the boy had the chance to choose his future parents. In the years following this event, Nemo felt that he had made a great choice, as he grew up in a safe and loving home. One day, while he was sleeping, the elderly man had his room invaded by a curious journalist, who went there to ask what the world was like before telomerization, which enabled the infinite renewal of human cells. At that time, humans interacted with each other and were free to think and make their own decisions. The problem is that, along with freedom, there are also countless possibilities for events throughout life. During his youth, Nemo fell in love with 3 different women and faced a great dilemma in choosing whom to marry. However, thanks to the fact that his memory had not been erased by the angels of oblivion, the young man knew exactly what his future would be like with each of them. One day, when he was still a boy, Nemo followed his mother on a trail through the forest and discovered that she was having a secret affair with Anna's father. From then on, the family began to fall apart, and before long, his parents separated. After the divorce, the young man had to make the most difficult decision of his life, and chose to leave town with his mother. Since he knew exactly what his future would be if he chose to stay with his father or his mother, Nemo had the chance to make a conscious choice, but now that he is elderly, both realities have begun to blur in his mind. After the divorce, Nemo's mother had to work twice as hard to put food on the table, and she barely had time to pay attention to her son. In an attempt to find a new husband, she would occasionally bring a suitor home for dinner, but Nemo would always scare them away by making catastrophic predictions about the future that awaited them. During his teenage years, Nemo had the chance to reconnect with Anna, as she also moved with her father and was transferred to his class. However, all of Anna's attempts to get closer were rejected, and the couple never had the chance to start a romance. Years later, they met again, and Nemo discovered that one of his childhood crushes was now married with children. Looking back, the young man reflects on what his life would have been like if he had reciprocated Anna's advances, and realizes that they could have been happy together. However, the end of this romance would be tragic, because one day, when both were adults and married, Nemo would leave work early to meet his wife, and on the way, he would suffer an accident that would be his end. After hitting a bird, the man loses control of the vehicle and ends up in a river. During the fall, he manages to unbuckle his seatbelt, but is unable to open any of the windows to reach the surface. However, if he had chosen to stay with his father, Nemo would have had to work from an early age to help pay the household bills, as his father was affected by a degenerative disease and became disabled. In an attempt to distract himself from his own life, Nemo goes to a nightclub and meets Elise, who tries to get close to him to make her ex-boyfriend jealous. After leaving the party, the girl starts crying, and Nemo approaches her to understand what is happening. In the first few minutes of conversation, the young man realizes that the girl studies at his school, but he never noticed her, because the truth is that he doesn't usually notice anyone. According to the young woman, there was a time when they were neighbors, but her parents ended up moving away. That same night, the couple kisses for the first time, and soon after, Elise leaves with the promise that she will contact Nemo soon. However, this never happens, and since he can't get the girl out of his head, Nemo decides to go after her. When he arrives at Elise's door, he realizes that she has gotten back together with her ex-boyfriend and leaves. Frustrated, he decides to take a different route and heads through the forest, but his motorcycle tires slip on the asphalt, and he ends up in an accident that destroys his life forever. Hours later, Nemo's body is found by the police and taken to the hospital. Although he can hear everything that is happening around him, Nemo is unable to move his body or open his eyes. If he hadn't gone to Elise's house that night, he wouldn't have had the accident, but he would still have been rejected by the young woman, who claims to be in love with Estefano. So, when the day of the spring dance arrives, Nemo invites Jean to dance, thus provoking Elise's jealousy. From that moment on, his destiny changed completely, as Jean ends up falling in love with him, and they marry years later. Thanks to his dedication to his work, Nemo becomes a wealthy man, buys a mansion, and has 2 children with his wife. After achieving everything he ever wanted, he is confronted by Elise, as she found a letter he wrote in his office. Throughout the text, Nemo vents about feeling bored with his own life, as everything turned out exactly as he knew it would. On the other hand, if he had insisted on winning Elise over, Nemo would have managed to marry her, but the young woman would have been doomed to spend the rest of her life unhappy. Despite having a stable family, with a husband who loves her and 3 healthy children, Elise was never able to feel satisfied with the choices she made in the past, and this began to haunt her more and more. Seeing his wife wasting away, Nemo does everything in his power to try to cheer her up, but none of his attempts have any effect. Over time, their children realized that something was wrong with their mother and began to ask questions about why she was so depressed. Not knowing the answer to this question, Nemo tries to distract his children from the fact that their mother is completely unstable, and does his best to handle everything on his own. Months later, when Joyce's birthday arrives, he organizes a party at his house and invites all of her friends, but Elise begins to freak out with all the noise. Realizing that she is being a terrible mother, the woman gets out of bed and goes downstairs to join her children. Although they are happy to see their mother out of her room for the first time in so long, Joyce and her siblings take a few minutes to get used to Elise's presence. After a few hours of celebration, the woman takes her children to sleep with her, and the family spends the whole night together. The next day, after dropping the children off at school, Nemo takes the car to a car wash and then returns home. When he arrives, he finds his wife crying in the middle of the street and goes out into the rain to try to calm her down. When she sees her husband coming, Elise says she is leaving home and begins to struggle on the ground. Hearing the woman's screams, the neighbors come out to see what is happening, and Nemo hugs his wife. At that moment, he realizes that he will not be able to calm her down, so he decides to pick Elise up and take her home. Hours later, when she finally regains her senses, the woman asks if her husband loves her, and Nemo says he can't imagine his life without her. Shortly after arriving in town, Anna's father reunites with Nemo's mother, and they decide to start a romance. Soon, the couple moves in together, and from then on, Nemo and Anna begin to share the same house. Secretly, the young people begin a romance, and during the night, they sneak into each other's rooms without their parents noticing. In the morning, Nemo returns to his room before his mother realizes what is happening, and in this way, they strengthen their bond and their relationship. However, a few months later, the teenager's parents decide to separate, and Harry reveals that he has gotten a job in New York. As she is a minor, Anna has no choice but to accompany her father, but she promises Nemo that one day they will meet again and spend the rest of their lives together. In the following years, Nemo dedicated his life to searching for the young woman who stole his heart, and even moved to New York to try to find her. Then, one day, while walking through the bus station, Nemo stopped to help a woman who had perished after consuming illegal substances, and when he least expected it, he came face to face with the love of his life. Upon seeing the only man she ever truly loved, Anna recognizes him immediately and walks toward him, unable to believe her eyes. When she realizes that she is not seeing a mirage, she hugs Nemo and accompanies him to his home. After spending a few hours with him, Anna reveals that she needs to leave to take care of some unfinished business, but leaves her number so that Nemo can contact her again. However, shortly after, it starts to rain in New York, and a single raindrop smudges all the ink on the paper. After that, Nemo is never able to contact Anna again, and ends up losing his great love because of this coincidence. As for Elise, if she hadn't fallen ill shortly after the wedding, Nemo's life would have been destroyed by another tragedy. During a car ride through the city, the couple would witness an explosion caused by a gas leak, and the accident would be the end of Elise. Although he survived, Nemo had to live the rest of his life with a huge scar on his face, and became completely obsessed with the decomposition process of plants and animals. Compared to this tragic fate, life with Elise doesn't seem so bad after all, since at least Nemo still has his children to give meaning to his life. One day, seeing her husband spending hours washing the car, Elise asks him why he devotes so much time to caring for the vehicle while leaving her alone. In response, the man takes a gallon of fuel and sets his vehicle on fire to prove to his wife that nothing is as important as her. Looking out the window, Nemo sees a new garden being built and finds Jean lying in bed. While trying to figure out if her husband really loves her, the woman asks what he is planning to do, as she received a call from the lawyer that morning and found out that Nemo had transferred all his assets to his wife's name. Overcome with indecision about his own fate, the man began to use a coin to decide his next actions, and took a flight to resolve some matters on the other side of the country. Upon arriving at the luxury hotel he booked, Nemo decides to take a shower and ends up being eliminated by a mercenary who went there to eliminate an astronaut named Daniel Jones. When he realizes he has eliminated the wrong man, Michael enlists the help of an accomplice to get rid of the evidence, and Nemo's body is abandoned in the forest. A few days later, his body is found by the police, and after identifying her husband, Jean understands why he transferred all the family's assets to her name. After caring for his sick wife for several years without complaining a single day, Nemo hears her say that she still loves Estefano, and that is why she is the way she is. According to Elise, every morning when she wakes up and sees her husband's face, she starts to cry because she realizes that her life is being wasted with him. After saying this, the woman breaks down and asks if Nemo will leave her, but instead of leaving, he hugs her. Realizing that she hurts everyone around her, Elise decides to pack her bags and leave, leaving her husband and children behind. In the reality where Elise loses her life in the explosion, Nemo had the chance to start over and became an anchor for a New York newspaper. One day, on his way home, he notices that the road is blocked and comes across the police removing a vehicle from the river. Seeing that scene, he realizes that Peter, Anna's current husband, has suffered the fate that belonged to Nemo, and decides to attend the funeral. When he arrives at the church, he finds Anna crying and hugging her children, and approaches the widow to offer his condolences. After all, Peter was his co-worker. Much later, when Earth became considered an inhospitable place, a group of people were transported to Mars. For years, Nemo and the survivors remained in hibernation, and when they woke up, they were already on Mars. After landing, the travelers hitch a ride in a vehicle to explore the new planet, and notice the clear difference in gravity. During the trip, Nemo scatters Elise's ashes across the planet, as he promised he would do if she perished before him. After a few years living on Mars, humans built vertical cities inside the planet, as the surface does not have adequate living conditions for human life. In his first week visiting the planet, Nemo meets Anna and discovers that she was sent on an expedition to measure the distance between Mars and Earth. Sometime after Peter's perishment, Nemo decides to visit Anna and tells her that when he saw her in church, he had the feeling that he knew her from somewhere. Upon hearing this, the woman walks away, as she had the same feeling and is confused about her feelings. Suddenly, all the realities that Nemo could live in begin to collapse, and his office is flooded. When he opens his eyes, the man realizes he is inside a car at the bottom of the river, and quickly opens the window to swim to the surface. At that moment, he wakes up in the hotel bathroom and is hit by the shot. Then, his last vision is the explosion of the spaceship where he and Anna met again. After reliving all the memories of the life he lived, and those he failed to live, Nemo hears Dr. Feldheim's voice trying to wake him from his hallucination, but he cannot open his eyes. In his subconscious, he begins to search for a way out and realizes that he has ended up in a parallel reality where everyone wears the same clothes, so he runs to his mother's house in search of a safe haven. However, when he opens the door, the woman claims not to know who he is and calls the police, while James, her real son, tries to immobilize the intruder. When the police arrive, Nemo is sent to a psychiatric hospital, and after answering a few questions, he returns to his room. After his meal, the young man opens a fortune cookie and finds a note. Upon reading the note, Nemo runs to the exit and manages to escape from the hospital. When he gets outside, he finds several instructions on what to do, and follows each one. With the help of a telephone operator, the young man finds the address of his old home, and when he gets there, he is surprised by a message from his future self. Upon seeing his own image 70 years older, Nemo is startled and sits down on the first chair he finds, but soon discovers that the furniture is broken. After falling, the young man gets up and listens to the old man rambling about the countless events that could make Nemo's existence impossible. Finally, the old man says that if Anna's calculations are correct, his younger self must remain alive until February 12, 2092, because he has a mission to accomplish at 5:50 a.m. After hearing this message, Nemo runs outside and sees the wooden house being crushed by a giant foot. As instructed, Nemo remains alive for another 83 years, and there are only 9 minutes left for him to fulfill the great mission of his life. After a few hours listening to all the stories experienced by the last mortal, the journalist who went there to interview him begins to ask some questions about the afterlife, and Nemo states that neither of them exist. According to the old man, that whole world only exists in the imagination of a 9-year-old child who is facing an almost impossible choice: to leave with his mother or stay with his father in the city where he was born. After saying these words, Nemo and the journalist approach the window and see the whole world disintegrating, as the child is undoing the universe he himself has built in his mind. Suddenly, the ocean appears in front of them, and they both see the sea being filled with several blocks as if they were Lego pieces. Instead of choosing to stay with his father or leave with his mother, Nemo runs away and follows his own path, which leads him to meet Anna 25 years later. When the clock strikes 5:50 on February 12, 2092, the mortal says his last words before a large audience and declares that this is the most beautiful day of his life. Soon after, Nemo's heart stops beating, but his perishment lasts only a few seconds, because at that moment his whole life begins again so that he has the opportunity to make new choices. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.